I want to talk about something I see very consistently in people who are building amazing spiritual businesses and actively trying to make things work. I'm talking about people who show up, take the action, create offers, post their content, speak to people, and they're doing everything that they've been told should be work, everything they see that works for other people. Not avoiding it, doing the actual work, the graft. And for a while, sometimes it does actually work. And that's great because our mind starts to evidence it. And you may have had bigger months, months that you've seen as successful, but then something always seems to change. And you watch things start to slow down and you start to worry again about how you're going to build all the momentum back up, how you're going to make everything work. And it can just start to feel like you're always building up from the ground, you're always back to the beginning, starting again. Why does it feel like this could all disappear at any minute when I'm working this hard? I'm Kathy and I'm a manifestation coach and I specialize in shadow work, imposter syndrome, and everything identity, all through the lens of the law of assumption. And I work with people who already understand manifestation, but they can't always seem to make it work consistently or consistent in every area of their life, especially their business. They know what they're here to do. They've seen it work before, but it doesn't always seem to hold or last. So what I focus on is stabilizing that identity. So what you already know actually reflects into your life. Everything I teach is based on how your inner position shapes your results, not what you say once, but what you consistently return to. So if you want to go deeper into this work, subscribe and follow along because I break this down step by step. And this is usually around the point where people find their way into my free school community because they need support and consistently to hold the results instead of feel like they're restarting and starting from scratch over and over again. So it's never about just doing more or learning more. It's about practicing to return to the version of you who naturally knows everything's inevitable and that they are the creator of their own reality. So when things slow down, like what we've just been talking about, money, clients, sales, how you feel in the business. It's never just the situation changing. It's what you do internally in that moment. So you might start watching it, worrying about it, trying to figure out how you're going to make everything in the external work again. And that takes you back into the old version, the same version who's always expected things to be in this cycle, who's expected it to drop in this way. So even though you've already had bigger months before, you've had some evidence, you don't stay grounded in that version of you. You go back to the one who's used to rebuilding. And that's why it keeps feeling like you're always starting again, because you keep returning to what is always feeling familiar. Now, your mind is always looking to confirm what it already believes to be true, to be the safest option for you. It's like an autopilot. So, when you've had a pattern before of things working, like being on a high up here and then slowing down and down and down, that is what has become to feel normal for you, even if it's not what you desire and what you actually want. So, you have the good month, things work out, clients come in, things are flowing, and it finally feels like you're building in the way that you've been trying to get to. And then the next month comes and it doesn't look the same. It's just not repeating in the way that you wanted it to and expected it to. So this is when your mind will start to look at everything externally. You'll find that you're noticing what is happening just as much as what isn't happening, trying to figure out, trying to adjust everything. And then you start going further. And that's where things like comparing, overthinking, over analyzing what has gone wrong and looking again at what other people are doing and what you think is working for other people. And unfortunately, the more that you do this, the further away you're coming from what actually was working before. And this is where you tend to stop recognizing what has already worked, what you have proved works before. And instead, you go into questioning mode, questioning everything. And that is actually where the shift has happened because you've moved out of the version of you who's already created the result and you've moved back into the version of you who is trying to figure out how to keep it. So instead of staying in it, in that new identity, you start analyzing, controlling, and trying to fix everything. And from there, your behavior starts to change. You might see things like you push harder, you overthink, you start changing things, you start looking at what everyone else is doing, you can start thinking it's the algorithm. All of that has always been coming from the version of you who doesn't trust it's going to continue. That is why it feels like a cycle. You create from one state 1 month, but then you maintain from another the next month. You get the result, but you don't stay in the version of you who created it. You're returning again and again to the version of you who expects it to be lost. And this is the part that most people tend to miss. They think it's about what they're doing, but it's not. It's about what they return to when things don't immediately match expectations, when they don't show up exactly as you expect it to, because that will either stabilize or destabilize your result. So instead of trying to fix this straight away when you have these inconsistent months, you need to see and become aware of what is this actually showing me? Because this pattern is never going to be random. It's showing you the exact version of you that is currently running everything underneath. Your dominant identity. It's showing you what to expect, what you believe, and what feels normal and safe for you. So the moment things don't repeat and you go into checking, comparing, trying to work it all out, that is not just a reaction. That is your dominant self concept. That is the position that you return to when things aren't going the way you want it to. So, when it doesn't match what you've expected and you're going into that trying and fix it mode, recognize what self concept you have just gone into in this moment. The one that assumes everything is going wrong or something is going wrong and that you need to do something to fix it. You need to change something and do something different to make it work. And instead of staying there, you need to come back to your identity, your self concept, the one you actually want to live from, the one that you're delusionally building everything from. Something, a version of you that trusts everything isn't working, everything is inevitable. The identity believes something like everything is inevitable for me. I'm always taking the right actions. I'm always moving in the right direction. I don't need to fix this. I trust everything is building. Everything is working out for me the way it's supposed to. And this is exactly what we're building daily inside of the reset, where you're stabilizing everything properly so you know who to return to, even when things are wobbling. Awareness will show you the pattern. But what changes is having something to return to. So each time you catch yourself going back into those old reactions and choosing something different, you start to stabilize a new way of thinking. You start to train your self concept of what is now safe for you. That what you're going for is actually safe to hold it consistently. And over time, that will begin to feel normal. And don't wait. And don't wait. Start today. Notice a moment today when you go into trying to fix what is happening. Catch it in the moment and come back to a different self concept, a different identity, the inevitable one that we've talked about before. Use those affirmations that we were just creating, use them in the moment, because when we're spiraling out of control, it's our mind taking over. It's the 3D reality that we're allowing ourselves to be sunk back into. So we need to ground ourselves back, and using tools like the affirmations we were just creating, they are wonderful ways to bring yourself back to the present moment. Yes, when you first start doing this journey, you may have to do that 100 times a day. Trust me, my clients have to do it time and time again. I had to do that. But over time, it gets less and less. And until you become aware and you actually take some action to stop yourself spiraling, always going to default back to your old identity. And if you want to listen to some more of how to keep going back to the identity that you want, stepping into your new identity, you might want to check out the next video below in how to anchor into this.